He's one of our best fighting generals ever, commander of the legendary 101st Airborne, currently fighting the good fight in Afghanistan. He's our dear friend, Major General John F. Campbell. He joins us from his headquarters at Bagram Air Base outside Kabul, the capital. And, General, before I ask about your theater of operations, I have to ask you about the talk, all this talk about the no-fly zone in Libya. Are you for it? Are you against it? How would it be implemented? Do you think maybe war fighting should be left to the soldiers and not the politicians?
Well, I think our country has our armies to fight our nation's war, but those decisions about going to war are made by the policymakers. And so really, Libya's out of my lane, Geraldo. I'm focused on Afghanistan. We have a lot of work to do here. I know there's a lot of stuff going on in Libya, that part of the world, but I'm focused on Afghanistan. We have a lot of work to do here, although we're making progress every single day.
Before I ask you about the progress, you heard the Secretary of Defense, Mr. Gates, talking about Afghanistan and Iraq and saying that any commander or any president or any administration who thought of another land war in the Middle East or in Asia should have his head examined. Does that make the effort in Afghanistan seem like a mistake to you?
No, absolutely not. And Secretary Gates made that speech at West Point. I read the transcript, saw portions of it. It was actually a very great speech to the cadets there. And that portion of it, I think, may have been taken out of context. But as you know, our armies fight our nation's war, and if called to go to war, we would go to war. And I do think that what we're doing here in Afghanistan is very, very important. It's a noble mission. I think Secretary Gates would tell you that as well. This is a very important mission. Our soldiers are doing great work. The Afghan people are getting a better life every single day here.
Are we making progress? You mentioned progress. And if we are making progress, do you see an end to this bitter conflict now almost a decade old?
Yeah, Geraldo, I think every single day I see progress. And, some days it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Some days it's very frustrating. But, if I stayed frustrated, I wouldn't be a leader. And so we look at it very, very hard. And we continue to see progress both on the security line of operation, the governance, and also the development. On the Afghan National Army, they continue to get better. We've added 11 units since we've been here. And each of those get rated as we continue to rate them in different metrics. They get better and better. Wherever we're combined with them, what we call combined action, 24/7, living with our counterparts, going out on patrols, out on operations, they continue to get better. Their leadership continues to get better, and that's very key. The higher level leadership, we're starting to build a non-commissioned officer corps with the Army, continues to get better. They're starting to do some independent operations in many areas. The planning ability of their corps headquarters, their brigade headquarters that we partner up, that we mentor with, continue to get better. So I'm very pleased with the progress of the Afghan Army. We still have to do a lot more work with the police. We've focused on the police this year, as we've talked about before, but we still have a long way to go there. And then the Afghan Border Patrol is another element of the Afghan National Security Forces that we work with. We have to continue to work there. And it's just a matter of priorities and a matter of putting our resources toward that. But again, I continue to see progress every single day with the Afghan National Security Forces.
I read that you're repositioning some of your troops near the Pakistani border. Why now?
Well, Geraldo, we've been looking at this for a long time. Ever since I got here last May, June timeframe, we've looked at realignment. And every commander that comes in the battle space continues to take a look at all of his COPs and FOBs. They took a look at force protection. They take a look at the task and purpose of why we're there or why we're not there. And we can do a couple things. We can add additional forces. We can transfer responsibility. We can come out totally. So we've been looking at a hard time at what we call N2KL, which is Nuristan, Nangarhar, Logman, and Kunar, that 4 province up in the northeastern portion of Regional Command East. I've been looking at realigning forces since we got here. And it's been an ongoing process, and we've been working with our Afghan counterparts in that. And we are there's 4 COPs, combat outposts in the Pesh River Valley there, and we're really looking at realigning forces. One of those COPs we're coming out of. In fact, last night we came out of FOB Blessing. We transfer that to our ANSF partners. They've plussed up their security, but we're still very close here. We have the ability to bring quick reaction forces in there. We have the ability to go back and forth. But what it does for us is it frees up additional forces to align them in other places throughout the battle space. As we look at population counterinsurgency, those 4 provinces only have about 2.2% of the population on RC East. And in fact, that valley is only 0.7%. So I've got to really prioritize and take a hard look at where we have those resources and align them really where there's more population. What we've done is we've taken those forces out, realigned them along the border in Kunar so we can help out on our PAC mill counterparts and do complementary operations, which they want us to do, which the Afghans want us to do, and which we want to do. But at the same time, again, we're not out of the Pesh. We have not abandoned the Pesh. We will still have forces in some of those COPs and FOBs in the Pesh River Valley, so the talk out there about abandoning the Pesh is absolutely wrong. We actually will have more combat power, able to go back into Kunar, able to disrupt sort of on a CT type strategy than we had before, because as you're sitting in these COPs and FOBs, you're very static. You have to do force protection. I can take those out of there and move them to another COP where I have additional forces, and then we can disrupt all around Kunar, Nangarhar, Logman, and I think it's going to be much, much better. But we've been doing this for the last several months.
I was in Blessing. I was in Pesh with your men. Your troops, they seem to be doing such a great job. It doesn't seem to you like it's taking a step back?
No, absolutely not. In fact, I think it's taken a step forward. We've transferred Blessing to the ANSF, so they've gained in their capacity to be able to take over that once very, very violent post there on their own. They've had to apply additional resources out there, and again, we have not abandoned that. We'll continue to provide resources, fires. We'll have a joint element there that can go out as a quick reaction force. I mean, you were out there after Bulldog Bite. When you talked to the soldiers out there, you saw them get up in those mountains, how they made a difference on the enemy out there. We'll continue to do that in Pesh. So I really need to stress that this is moving forward. It's not backward. We're doing it in concert with our Afghan counterparts. I was out there last week. I talked to the governor. I talked to the ANSF that are out there. We did a formal transfer about 4 days ago out there out at Blessing, and the ANSF have really stepped up to take that on. But again, there's 4 COPs inside the Pesh River Valley, and we will come out of Blessing. We have come out of Blessing, but we'll be realigned in other COPs and FOBs throughout the Pesh River Valley.
I'm sure you've heard that the United Nations has strongly condemned U.S. forces in Afghanistan after that accidental tragedy involving an airstrike that killed 9 Afghan youngsters. Are you, I mean, obviously we're all heartbroken over the civilian deaths, but don't you find it ironic and bitter that the United Nations is so quick to condemn our side when there are civilian casualties, and you scarcely ever hear them condemning the Taliban, who, as I understand it, are responsible for far more civilian deaths than we ever are?
Well, Geraldo, you're absolutely right. 90% of the civilian casualties are caused by the insurgents. And we do not target women and children, innocent civilians. Today, 15 innocent women and children were killed. About 18 were wounded in 2 IED events down in Paktika, and that was the Taliban targeting civilians as they put out those IEDs. And again, 90% caused by the insurgents. You know, when we do cause that, we are quick to own up to that. We learn lessons from that. We apologize for that. I've been to the shures where we've gone and apologized to the elders. The brigade commander on the ground has done that. The governor went with him. And as those accidents happen, we will continue to make sure that we're transparent. And we go out front and say, hey, we made a mistake here, and we're very, very sorry for it. And the loss of any life, a civilian life, innocent bystander, is absolutely tragic. Our hearts go out to the families there. But again, we do not target women and children, civilians. The Taliban do, and 90% of the civilian casualties are caused by the insurgents. And we don't do a good job, I think, across the board getting that message out.